fun card, and obviously the main event is the fight that people have been waiting for a long time. Strickland looked incredible in his last performance, and you know, how much security do you think we're going to need from Chimaev?
Quite a lot, Danny. You need to hire some extra people.
That might be a tougher fight for Khamzat than I may have imagined. When Sean Strickland goes into Houston to take on Fluffy Hernandez, not only does he win the fight, he's saying things that are so crazy and out there that everybody's paying attention.
Chimaev's a bully. I made him quit training.
He says some wild stuff, and then Khamzat starts to reply. Watching him against Fluffy, Sean looks so good. If that version showed up, that might be a tougher fight for Khamzat than I may have imagined. We're going to need some extra security for this fight.
Win fights.
I'll tell you the fight that I'm really looking forward to, because I don't know what's going to happen, is Khamzat versus Strickland. I'm very interested in that fight. Strickland is a fucking nightmare standing up.
For sure.
He's a nightmare.
For sure.
What he did to Fluffy Hernandez, I was like, holy shit, man.
The body shot, the finish. But he made Fluffy fight. You know, he fights at a slower pace. He has his own pace in there, and he kind of forces the other guy to fight. His opponent has to fight this pace with him. I think the best chance is to blitz him, do unorthodox things, because he wants to jab, circle, throw a kick, jab, circle. He keeps a very slow pace. He's not sprinting or trying to blast you out of there. He just
he doesn't get hit much.
Chips away, high guard, good shell.
Yeah, very good shell. His defense is extraordinary. One of the things he was telling me is like, I spar more than anybody and I get hit less than anybody. And that is true. Like, if you think about how much that guy spars, it's a giant part of his training.
Strickland will do great against Khamzat.
Khamzat is more interested in Sean Strickland than Chimaev. Strickland obviously wants it.
The Strickland fight does make sense. I do think Strickland will do great against Khamzat. Just his style, I think he would. Strickland is stronger than people think, and his technique to get back to his feet is very good.
You think Strickland has a better chance against Khamzat than Chimaev?
100%. You see what Strickland did to Chimaev. Just think Strickland, he has this unique ability to make people fight his fights. If you haven't been in there with him, it's really hard to figure him out in a short period of time.
Strickland, there's going to be some times where Strickland poses some resistance, gets back up a couple of times, maybe Chimaev gasses out a little bit. This was earlier in Chimaev's career as well. And Strickland gives him some real problems. That teep to the body, frustrating Chimaev. Chimaev swinging, not really landing anything. Now Strickland's starting to stuff some takedowns. So this is going to be one of those fights where instead of us sort of seeing the Duplessis thing and being like, oh my God, he doesn't really have the fundamentals to stuff these takedowns or get back up to his feet against a guy like Chimaev, Duplessis still had those moments late in the fight. He had those moments in round 5. And Strickland does have solid wrestling fundamentals. You always see him in the wrestling outfit. He's always had good grappling in his career. He's taken down guys like Chimaev. When people take down Strickland, he gets right back up. Like he does. He gets right back up to his feet. Or they don't take him down in the first place. But he always immediately works to a better position. And he has that ability in him. So it'll be interesting to see. This would be an amazing win for Chimaev if he can get it. But if he can't finish Strickland in the first 2 rounds, which I'm going to say maybe he can, I don't know if this is the same 5-rounder as the Duplessis thing. I'm going to think that Strickland might take this one over if we do go past round 2. So this is very compelling. I'm leaning towards...
I don't think he beats Strickland.
Do you think Strickland should get the next title fight?
Who are you going to give it to if not Strickland? Sean beat a prime Izzy, man. Beat the brakes off of Izzy when Izzy had just beaten Pereira. When he did the Fluffy, which had a lot of hype behind him. Chimaev, I don't think he's all that good, man. Sean Strickland's different. You can take Sean down, and that's very hard, but it's even harder to hold this guy down. Chimaev might get a takedown or 2 on him, but he's going to get so tired because Sean always finds a way back to his feet. I don't think he beats Strickland.
As fight night gets closer, this matchup has become harder and harder to read. At first, people looked at it like a simple style clash. The kind of fight where you think the answer is obvious after a quick glance. That is no longer the case. The closer this fight gets, the more debate it creates. And now the breakdown between Khamzat Chimaev and Sean Strickland feels wide open, with strong opinions on both sides and no clear agreement on what is really going to happen once the cage door closes. A lot of the talk around this fight starts with Khamzat Chimaev, and that makes sense. His pressure is intense, his pace can be overwhelming, and his grappling wrestling has given opponents serious problems early in fight. Because of that, one side believes Chimaev's forward movement, physical strength, and wrestling pressure will be too much too soon. In that view, he storms ahead, forces Strickland backward, turns the fight into a grinding battle, and takes control before Sean can ever settle into his rhythm. People who see it that way believe the danger for Strickland starts right away, and if he cannot slow things down early, the fight may get away from him before he has a real chance to build momentum. But that is only one side of the argument, and the other side is just as confident. There are many who look at Sean Strickland and see a fighter who stays calm when other men start to panic. They see someone who does not get rattled easily, who keeps his eyes on the target, keeps the jab working, and keeps making the same simple things effective round after round. That group believes Strickland's poise under pressure. His ability to stay mentally steady and his stubborn toughness could gradually take over the fight. They do not expect him to win by matching Chimaev's aggression with chaos. They expect him to win by refusing to break, refusing to rush, and slowly forcing the fight into a pace and range that suits him much better. That is what makes this so interesting. One side sees early danger, pressure, and control from Chimaev. The other sees resilience, discipline, and slow building control from Strickland. One picture is fast and violent. The other is measured and stubborn. Both feel possible, and that uncertainty is exactly why this fight has become such a major talking point. The truth is, this is not one of those matchups where everybody agrees on the likely result and only argues about the method. This one feels split right down the middle. Some believe Chimaev's aggression and grappling are the kind of tools that can shut down almost anyone before they ever get comfortable. Others believe Strickland's composure, his jab, and his refusal to mentally fold can turn a dangerous early fight into a very different kind of contest later on. That is the mystery hanging over this matchup right now, and it is the reason so many people are struggling to make a clean prediction. So when people ask how this fight plays out, the honest answer is that it depends on which version of the fight shows up first. If Chimaev gets his preferred kind of opening, the pressure could be brutal. If Strickland survives that first rush and finds his own rhythm, the whole thing could shift in a direction that not everyone is expecting. That is why this fight has become a real question mark, and that is why it deserves a closer look from every angle.
And of course, we have a title fight coming up with Chimaev making that first title defense against Sean Strickland in Newark. You've shared the cage with Strickland before. How big of a dog is he in this fight in your eyes? Can he upset the apple cart?
I think he can if it goes to the later rounds and he doesn't get taken down. But again, Chimaev is a bat out of hell. He's a guy that comes aggressively straight away, and Strickland can match that probably, but we'll see. And they've trained together, so this is probably something that happened in the gym that we are not privy to. So yeah, that'll be interesting. But I look forward to watching it and reacting to it on YouTube.
When you hear this kind of breakdown from Joe Rogan, it becomes even clearer why this fight is so difficult to call. There is nothing simple about Sean Strickland once you start paying attention to the details of how he fights. On the surface, some people see a straightforward striker with a jab and forward pressure, but the deeper you go, the more layers start to show up. His style has moving parts that are easy to miss if you only look at the action in quick highlights or short clips. Strickland's technique is built around constant movement, and that movement does more than help him stay active. It helps him control range, disrupt timing, and make opponents work far harder than they want to. He does not just walk forward for the sake of pressure. He moves with purpose, and that steady pressure can slowly start closing space without giving away the kind of openings that reckless pressure fighters often leave behind. That is one of the reasons he can make opponents feel crowded even when the exchanges themselves do not always look wild. A huge part of that style is his distance management. Strickland has a feel for where he needs to be, when he should step in, and when he should slightly shift out of danger while still staying close enough to keep his opponent uncomfortable. He is not only trying to land, he is trying to make the other man second guess his choices. He wants them thinking, hesitating, resetting, and losing confidence. That kind of control dodoes not always show up as flashy offense, but it can shape the whole fight. Then there is the cardio. And this matters a lot in a matchup like this. Strickland has built a reputation around endless sparring and a style that allows him to keep a hard pace without fading quickly. That engine is one of the biggest reasons people give him a real chance here. He can stay in your face, stay on balance, and keep making you deal with him for longer than many fighters want to. He has a way of turning the fight into a steady grind, and that kind of pressure becomes more dangerous when it does not disappear after a few explosive moments. That is also why he has been able to make dangerous opponents look worse than expected. Even a fighter like Anthony Hernandez has looked outmatched under that kind of pace and pressure. It is not always because Strickland overwhelms people with one single weapon, and it is often because the total package starts adding up. The movement, the jab, the distance control, the conditioning, and the constant pressure all begin stacking on top of each other until the opponent opponent is fighting both Strickland and the pace of the fight itself. Another detail that keeps coming up is his lead leg. For many fighters, that kind of target can be a real weakness, especially against opponents who are smart enough to attack it consistently. That would normally be a major concern. But Strickland has his own way of dealing with that threat, and that is part of what makes his style unusual. Instead of accepting damage there, he uses clever defensive habits to reduce it, including lifting the leg to take away the target and avoid clean impact. It is not a random trick. It is something he uses with purpose, and it has been explained effectively by Alex Pereira, which gives even more weight to that point. That small defensive adjustment says a lot about Strickland as a fighter. He may not always look flashy, but he makes practical choices inside the fight. He understands how to protect weaknesses without giving up the rest of his game. He finds ways to keep doing what he wants to do, even when opponents are trying to attack the spots people assume are available. That is one more reason this matchup is not easy to predict with confidence. So when Rogan talks through this kind of breakdown, it helps explain why Strickland is such a difficult opponent to figure out. He is not simply durable. He is not simply tough. He is not just a guy with a jab. His style is built on motion, range, pressure, conditioning, and small defensive details that can change how a fight unfolds over time. That is why people keep circling back to the same point. If Chimaev cannot completely break that structure early, then Sean's style could become a serious issue as the fight keeps moving forward.
Understanding of distance, timing, pattern recognition, you're constantly in there, moving around.
Right.
It's like, and then there's also the cardio that comes from sparring.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
Like, because his cardio is almost entirely based on sparring. And, man, that motherfucker doesn't get tired in there.
Right.
And the Fluffy fight was like, I thought Fluffy was going to be a problem. I'm like, Fluffy's really good, man. You think he submitted Adolfo Vieira. He's got all this fucking crazy cardio. He puts a pace on guys. And Strickland made it look like he just did not belong in there.
He's so heavy on that front foot, though. I can't believe guys aren't smashing that calf, man.
I know. Well, he's hard to hit, man. And he also knows how to do that fucking that hacky sack thing where, you know, like you're bending your knee upwards. You know what I mean?
To check it?
Yeah. Well, you don't even check it. You just kind of like relax your leg and lift it up. You know who showed me that is Alex Pereira. He's like, instead of checking it, it was like, if you check.
When you add Din Thomas to the conversation, the matchup becomes even more fascinating. His breakdown brings another layer to the debate because it pushes people to look beyond the first impression of dominance and ask a harder question. Not just whether Khamzat Chimaev is dangerous, because everybody knows he is, but whether Sean Strickland's specific style creates problems that do not go away just because Chimaev is the more explosive force on paper. Chimaev is still widely viewed as the dominant fighter in this matchup, and that reputation is not there by accident. A lot of people still see him as the man most likely to impose himself, especially in the early part of the fight. That remains the central fear for anyone picking against him. But Din Thomas points towards something important, and it changes how the fight looks when you really think it through. The argument is not that Strickland needs to become a totally different fighter to win. The argument is that his normal style may already contain the exact kinds of problems that can make this a very uncomfortable fight for Chimaev. That matters because some matchups only work if one fighter completely changes who he is. This one does not appear to fit that pattern. Strickland's takedown defense, his awkward forward pressure, and his non-stop pace are already core parts of his game. He does not need a total rebuild to make those things matter here. He does not need to fight in a way that feels foreign to him. He simply needs those same tools to hold up under the pressure long enough for them to start having an effect. The takedown defense is one of the first pieces people point to, and for good reason. Against a fighter like Chimaev, you do not have to stop every attempt in a perfect, clean way to stay alive in the fight. Sometimes surviving the first layer matters most. Sometimes making the wrestler work, forcing effort, forcing adjustment, and forcing more attempts can shift the fight little by little. Strickland's ability to resist, react, and stay upright when it counts could become one of the hidden keys to the whole matchup. Then there is the pressure, and not the neat textbook kind. Now, Strickland applies a strange kind of forward pressure that can feel awkward, irritating, and draining. It is not always dramatic. It is not always explosive, but it can break rhythm, crowd decisions, and make a clean game plan feel messy. Against a fighter who wants to explode into control early, that awkwardness could matter more than people expect. It can turn clean sequences into scrambles, and scrambles can completely change the feel of a fight. That is another part Din Thomas touches on. The possibility of forcing those scrambles. If Strickland can survive the early storm, if he can stay calm in those dangerous moments and avoid getting locked into the kind of control Chimaev wants, then the fight may begin slipping into a less predictable place. Every scramble creates movement, and every movement creates a new decision. The cleaner the fight is for Chimaev, the better it probably is for him early. The messier it becomes, the more room there may be for Strickland to start finding finding his spot. And once that begins, other parts of Strickland's game start becoming more relevant. His jab can begin setting the tone. His front kicks can start building a pattern. His pressure can stop looking like survival and start looking like control. The pace can shift. The exchanges can stretch out. The danger may still be there, but the structure of the fight becomes something very different from the version many people are picturing in their heads right now. That is really the heart of the argument. The most common expectation is that this fight will be decided by what Chimaev does early, and there is good reason for that expectation. But Din Thomas points to another possibility. He points to a version of the fight where Strickland absorbs the early heat, forces ugly transitions, stays active, and slowly moves the action into rounds and sequences that feel less and less comfortable for Chimaev. That kind of drift would not happen all at once. It would build over time. But if it starts happening, the fight could look very different from what most people expected when the matchup was first announced. That is why this breakdown adds so much intrigue. It is not just praise for one fighter or criticism of the other. It is a reminder that style mattered, pacing mattered, and survival in the early moments can change the whole story of a fight. Chimaev may still be the man many see as the dominant force, but there is a real and serious case that Strickland's style is naturally built to create problems, especially if he can turn the fight from an early storm into a long, uncomfortable grind.
Khamzat. By the way, that Sean Strickland-Khamzat fight, who do you think is going to win that one? Because obviously a lot of people are picking Khamzat. He's just so dominant, but out of all the options, Sean does have great wrestling takedown defense, and also he's got great shots to the body, and he's very awkward to fight. Good cardio too.
Yeah, I think honestly, if you were to ask me before the Fluffy fight,
yeah,
I would have said there's no way. I think Sean's great, but he's just going to be another victim for Khamzat. But after watching him fight Fluffy up close and personal, again, cage side, man, I think Sean could pull this off, man. I'm actually thinking if that Sean Strickland shows up, I think he pulls this off, man. I think he defends a couple shots. He will get taken down, but I think he gets back to his feet. And then if he can get his jab going, his jab and those teep kicks going, because what Sean does well naturally is already a good defense towards a guy like Khamzat. Mm-hmm. And it's not like he's got to do anything different. Just what he does good naturally is already a good start for beating a guy like Khamzat. So him adding on to that, I think, man, if the guy who fought Fluffy shows up, he beats.
Now it comes down to you. How do you see this fight playing out? Do you think Khamzat Chimaev's aggression and grappling take over early? Or do you believe Sean Strickland's jab, pressure, and toughness start changing the fight as the rounds go on? Drop your prediction in the comments below, share who you think has the edge and why, and hit subscribe so you do not miss any of the latest updates.